One thing that I like to say about city trees is that trees that grow well cause problems. I like to say that tree roots are like people in a number of fundamental ways. One, they'll eat more than they have to. Trees will grow as many roots as possible in the attempt to get as big as possible. Two, tree roots are lazy. They always grow wherever it's easiest to grow. And when we remove old pavement, old damaged pavement, you frequently see nodules or big knots in the roots like this, because the roots will exploit any sort of a void space. If your choice as a tree root is between growing deep through hard compacted soil, or in some cases there's not even soil underneath, there's just compacted gravel or rock or old garbage or whatever is under there. If your choice as a tree root is going deep through a difficult course of travel, or growing in the void space at the base of the sidewalk, you're going for the void space at the base of the sidewalk, and that's what these nodules are. Construction sites often become a crowded affair. And when you have trees that are remaining in the vicinity of, or sometimes even in the midst of a construction site, all the ground space underneath the trees is often used. Construction and trees are at odds with one another. It's important that we make an effort to actually protect them. That's our fat tree removal lesson for the day. You know, when you do this kind of work, you remember a lot of the stuff you learned in school. If you got a circle that's 10 inches in diameter, how much more surface area, how much more volume is there than if the circle is 5 inches in diameter? Your instinct says that's twice the size, when in fact it's more like 4 times the size, because of the volume. Yeah. And what you learn when you do this kind of work is a tree that's 10 inches in diameter versus one that's 20 inches in diameter. It's an altogether different deal. Because again, gravity always works. Wood is always heavy. No matter how dead or alive it is, it's always heavy. So the bigger wood is, the more potential danger and risk and complication there is involved in taking trees down of any size, and then of dealing with the remains once you get the tree down. Much as the canopy of a tree above ground can be pruned, the canopy below ground can be pruned if properly done. Obviously, the complication, the complexity, the difficulty of root pruning is that the roots are covered in dirt. So in order to prune them properly and at the proper junctures, we have to remove the soil and expose the root system. And that's what we do with the air knife. The risk of root pruning, different from canopy pruning, the risk of root pruning is that if you remove too many or too much of the root system, you create a potential hazard. A tree, among other things, is a giant lever arm. That's a term that one arborist that I know likes to use. It's a giant lever arm. So if this is the tree and these are the roots, the tree moves in the winds. When the tree moves, it pulls its roots with it. They keep it upright. These roots over time that are underneath pavement, concrete, house foundation, whatever, can cause damage to those structures. So the lesson for the day is stop the stake. If you're required to use tree stakes on your project, make sure that you don't put it on too tightly. Make sure that the stakes and the plastic chain is removed after a maximum of one growing season. But ideal scenario is don't use stakes at all, with the understanding that tree stakes and the plastic chain cause more problems than they help prevent. And I'm on a mission. We at Root Cause are on a mission to stop the stake. No matter if you're pruning a tree, removing a tree, root pruning, digging a hole next to a tree, fixing a sidewalk, doesn't matter. The first thing you do every time is look for hazards. I'd say the single most important tool which is true in almost any job, is your head protection. Right? There is no downside to constantly talking about, thinking about, discussing, making plans for safety. There's no downside to that. It's irritating. You know, we don't want to do it. We think it's stupid. I get that. And I'm right in there. I don't want to fill out 5 more forms either. But a lot of the point of that is just to get us to stop, slow down, think about it, and make sure that we look out for hazards and that we are intentionally safe. In general, trees, the growth of trees is restricted by poor growing conditions. The less ground space it has, the more concrete it has around it, the more people walking over the root zones, the more cars driving by, the more it restricts the root growth of the trees. But a tree that in nature will grow sometimes 2 or 3 feet in diameter, in poor planting conditions might not grow more than 1 foot in diameter. Again, not enough soil volume, not enough nutrients, not enough water. Conditions are poor. Welcome to working downtown. It's just tight quarter here. Can't figure out where to stage your tools. You got a lot of pedestrians. We got cars going by. We got people coming by wanting to engage in colorful conversations, and kind of get our fencing up so pedestrians don't step in it. No limit to the challenges of working downtown Seattle.